All right, so I am VanVelding. I record the Beige and the Bold and Nine Deeps of Space podcasts.
I'm Dr. Isix of The Watches of Tomorrow and also a beast of myth and legend.
All right, and we are going to hammer out an episode of Enterprise One, the Enterprise where everybody is on Kirk's Enterprise and they're all alive and just doing Star Trek stuff.
It's pretty cool.
Right. So, you gave me some new pitches this week.
Yes. And some of these can be combinable with the other pitches you already came up with, and some of them can be standalones, and we can do a mix and match if you like.
Yeah, there was an interesting one that stood out to me because I have always hated Bashir's Augment storyline because it just seemed kind of uninspired and it didn't go anywhere. Made him superhuman for no reason. It contradicted a lot of stuff from season one. I try not to worry about canon, but at the same time, I don't feel like we got good stories out of it. So You pitched one called Inferior Ambition, where Bashir, he discovers he's not the only genetically enhanced person.
Yeah, at least human on the crew.
Yeah, and they haven't been kind of rising to the top of their field the same way that Dr. Bashir has. Mm-hmm. So I'd be happy to start with that.
Right. Yeah. My initial thinking was that it'd be Tom Paris, because he's kind of in Voyager was written as this guy who just kind of has any skill necessary for this week's adventure, and it's never really explained well. Usually people put it down as bad writing, but what if there was actually a reason for it? But I am all ears if you have other suggestions for who this is.
The thing is... Sorry. Is that, I would take it by series, which is there's no one else in DS9 because it didn't really come up and there's not a lot of humans. Mm-hmm. Also, it wouldn't necessarily have had to have come up since we can do whatever we want.
True.
Star Trek. We've got two Daxes, which is a knot we are apparently going to have to untangle later.
Yes.
So, you got that. I think Voyager's a good place to pull from. There's 4 humans on Voyager, and most of them were underwritten. So I think Paris is just as good choice as, say, Chakotay for that.
True.
Harry Kim, maybe not. Harry Kim seems he's a happy little Boimler. So, I don't think he'd be a good choice for it. And he's got, other stuff going on in our abbreviated canon.
Yes. He's older, he's a little bit more weathered, he's a little more interesting than he was before.
Yeah.
We've already kind of upgraded his character, so working on somebody else to upgrade would be generally probably a prime idea. Another, I guess, option would maybe be Natasha Yar, because, just one season on Next Gen there, and she's done, other than, cameos and things like that, and, illegitimate Romulan daughters.
A lot of her character is she died in season 1.
Yes. So
she could use something.
Yeah, and from the get go, Worf really respects her because she's some sort of badass. But what if her background is that her family went to this colony that was on the edge of falling apart in the first place because they wanted to genetically enhance their kids and get away with it, and there you go, and that's why some more of her backstory, but. There's still also things in their backstory which are always uncomfortable to talk about, so
Yeah. So that might be an option, considering I didn't think much of it. You've got Riker, who's clearly ambitious. Picard, who's clearly ambitious. Crusher, who isn't ambitious, but she does her damn job.
Yep.
She ran Starfleet Medical for a year, so it's not like she isn't going at her peak ability. And she's a doctor, too, which feels a little redundant. But maybe she could hide it that way. And then you got TOS,
Rand?
Which is interesting. Because Scotty's the unambitious nerd, but he's also charging on all cylinders. Yeah, McCoy would... Huh?
Scotty's pretty much the ultra-competent engineer that, all other Star Trek kind of borrows from.
Yeah. And he doesn't have a lot of ambition to command it, and he's not really as good at it as Kirk. And that gives us Uhura and Rand and Chapel. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like, those ladies are kind of badass in their own right, and I wouldn't want to make it so that they're hey, they're genetically engineered to be badass.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
A bit unfair, yeah.
Like undercuts a little bit.
And, Uhura doesn't need genetic engineering in order to kick two people's ass at once.
Right. Like they're all pretty badass ladies. So that leaves us with Geordi, or maybe Paris. I find Paris to be incredibly boring, and I'm not compelled by it.
Geordi would be an interesting twist that, he was genetically enhanced but had a side effect. That's how he became blind originally. Dun dun dun.
What would be interesting is if we don't make it about Geordi being blind. His parents are like, "Hey, so he's blind. Okay, that's fine. It's the future. It's not a deal breaker for us."
Mm-hmm.
We just feel like there should be potential in him that we don't want to get lost because of the mistakes we made as kids. Like our kid's got this potential. He's Geordi LaForge. What we want him to do is to be better than us. We want him to be focused on his work. We want him to not fall for relationships. We don't want him to be in these romantic entanglements. His parents are both successful Starfleet officers. I forgot about that when I started that.
In fact, didn't his mom disappear at one point?
Yeah, she did. That was the plot of a real attempt at the series trying not to become aware of how poorly it had filled out Geordi's backstory. So yeah, like Geordi has two parents, and they're both Starfleet officers, and one of them is missing. Oh my god. It's like we have almost nothing else on Geordi here. Maybe that's how it is. Maybe they're just like Starfleet officers who want their kid to be, not inhibited by all the stuff that isn't Starfleet. And they wouldn't put it that way.
Basically wanted their kid to follow in their footsteps, and it's like, well, how do we make the perfect Starfleet officer? Someone who is both going to be highly competent but also completely laser focused. Yeah, exactly. And so we get this situation where they're like, okay, we're just going to tweak a few things here and sort of leave out the other stuff. And so what if he has a physical handicap there? That's not what we're going to be focusing on. It's all going to be mental and focused here. I guess which is kind of like Bashir. It isn't necessarily the giant muscles Noonien Soon here sort of thing going on here.
Yeah. There's a lot to go into with Bashir's bit. So like I like Geordi, and Paris, when we go through the options, is probably a better choice. We kind of have Paris in the junior enlisted rank simply because he's I think he's done criminal things in the past. Mm-hmm. So we kind of accept the Maquis exists. Same thing with Chakotay. And honestly, if you were to break those two characters down to about the same rank, I'm not sure what the difference is.
No, Chakotay's a little older, a little bit more Native American, and Paris has an admiral for a dad.
But we have Chakotay listed as a crewman and Thomas Paris as a junior tech, so like they're comparable in rank and presumably age. So
well, we could pick one of them and have the other one be the one who figures it out or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying I don't know how elementally different those two characters are, other than Tom Paris is a white dude from the 20th century in all but name. Yes. And Chakotay is a poorly written for Native American character who gets to like play second fiddle to Captain Janeway. So if you're like, well, what are their characters though? I don't know. Like, how do they solve problems? How do they, what's the difference in their characters?
I guess Chakotay's problem solving is to, trust his people, go back onto old-timey wisdom if he has something applicable. Otherwise, trust your instincts. While Tom Paris also is kind of a trust your instincts sort of fellow, but he's also a bit more hotshot, more show-offy about certain things. He really enjoys his play, and if he can make work into play, then all the better. And so his then decision making process as far as solving problems and things like that then is very much in he wants to be in a playful mindset. Otherwise, he's just going to have to sort of go through it, and it's going to be a pain in the ass.
I can see that. So it's something about him. I accept his completely milquetoast characterization from Voyager, of like he's just a 20th century guy.
Yep.
Um,
Well, we could always have a if we don't pick Paris for this, then we could always have Paris. Turns out he actually is a guy from the 20th century.
that would actually be hilarious.
It's like, yeah,
Or
I
we
was
can make
1973. What's up?
We can make him a huge fan of the 22nd century. He just knows random bullcrap, like everything that's like historical figure, future figure in Star Trek. It can just be Paris, but they're all 22nd century dudes, and we're like, thanks for that news flash from the year 2137. Thank you, buddy. But anyway, we're being a little unfair there. Is that the Enterprise era?
The 2100s is Enterprise era.
Okay, all right.
It's like 70, 80 years after Zefram Cochrane's first flight. So
we got to cut the rope and start making a story here, though. So
let's pick one.
Right. So Dr. Bashir, he's a junior officer in medical. He is genetically engineered, but
Yes.
it's still secret. Is it still secret? Or can we have the TNG season 2 colony of nothing but genetically engineered children?
Well, we could always have it that maybe that's why, in whatever our crazy timeline happened here, that's why he's now no longer a chief medical officer, but a junior grade lieutenant. And then, he got busted down a few ranks, sort of punishments like, all right, you technically lied on your entrance stuff here, but it wasn't your fault, et cetera, et cetera. So, but you still have to get punished. You're still a fantastic doctor, but you're going to have to answer these other folks first. But it could also be one of those, like, not necessarily things that's advertised, like everyone that needs to know knows, but not everyone knows, sort of thing.
God, there's so much drama there. It was a bad storyline, but like they mined the drama from it. Mm-hmm. So what if Julian's just cool? What if he's not from Earth? They're humans that are not from Earth.
Yeah, true.
And just like Yar, he's just from another planet, and it's cool there. And he got into Starfleet, and he has like a waiver, and maybe it's kind of low key. Who knows? Mm-hmm. But like he's just cool with it, so there's no drama there.
All right,
but
so
maybe
we kind of take out the drama. I do like the low key sort of like, there are people that would have some issues with it, but as long as it's not a big deal, then everything's fine, sort of situation.
But if that's the case, then how is it dramatic if Paris or LaForge has it?
Well, because they aren't from a background like that, and maybe they were completely unaware of that until we find this out as part of the plot.
Are we slowly hammering out an allegory for weed legalization?
Maybe. Well, maybe there's like an accident, and our mystery augment comes in, and then has to have their genome scanned, and then Bashir's kind of looking over the data and it's like, wait, some of this looks very familiar, and then he compares it to his own genome. It's like, we're like cousins, but we're not. What?
We went to the same questionable medical facility as kids. Yeah, I mean it's. I think we should go with your first suggestion, which is that the revelation is in Bashir's past, and he's maybe capped for his achievements within Starfleet. And maybe that even rankles him a little bit, but he finds someone else who isn't.
And maybe that's why he's gets a little upset here. It's like, I am obligated to tell people about this on one hand, but I also don't want you to be, held back. But I also don't think it's fair that you get to go forward and I don't, sort of thing. So there could be a sort of whole back and forth there with him trying to decide what to do when he gets this information.
A big concept that people are debating these days is, I suffered, therefore you have to suffer too. Mm-hmm. Why should we make it so the next generation has to suffer a little less? And indeed, if we're going to accept Star Trek's premise that superior genes breed superior ambition, then that would be definitely a thorn in the side of Julian Bashir. We can just let Bashir have that character trait where he's like, yeah, I do want to be the greatest doctor alive. Early season Bashir never shut up about that. So they're like, well, you're genetically engineered, so you can't be. Congratulations, you're middle management for the rest of your life in Starfleet. And he's like, yeah, okay, all right, I'd still like to serve, I guess, because what else is he going to do?
I'm still going to be a badass doctor, just even if you don't, let me be in charge of anything.
Yeah. And so then Tom Paris bebops along, is genetically enhanced, doesn't even care, and uh, it threw away his entire career of his own volition, allegedly. So, for Bashir to say, I had to get my entire shit wrecked and deal with it over something I didn't do. I didn't make this choice for me. Therefore you have to suffer. You need to get hit for it. And it's not an observation of Federation law. It's not any kind of principle of the matter. It's just pure, crabs in a barrel is what it is. Mm-hmm. And I think you can also have an interesting intersection of medical confidence. Can Paris break the law just by existing? And is that criminal activity of breathing a lot sufficient reason for Bashir to betray his confidentiality?
That's a good question. Because if Tom Paris isn't actively doing anything to further break the law, what's the medical ethics there then? All right, well, I think as far as kicking things off, if we do settle on this sort of dynamic here, we could have very easily, Alpha Shifts, doing some stuff. Maybe Cisco and Chakotay and Paris are on an away mission, and something terrible happens, and the other two come back, and Paris is horrendously injured, and he is struggling to stay alive, and that's our cold open there, and then we roll intro, and we come in, and Bashir is taken over from who's on the previous shift there, Chapel, and it's this is where we're at as far as his treatment goes. He's not out of the woods yet. But here's the next step we're going to be doing. Do you mind taking over for a bit so I can go, get food or something like that? And so Bashir comes in and then starts looking at the stuff and is like, wait a moment.
Okay. Two things. One, I think you can have one shift that's on duty and one shift that's doing away team missions, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're active and you're on standby. So naturally you have overlap. Also, we could do a Simpsons fake out. Like so many Simpsons episodes, they have a central plot, but what leads us into that plot isn't anything related to that. It's some other wacky story of Springfield, right?
Oh, yes.
So rather than just saying, oh, it's Tom Paris really Bashir all the way, what if something happens to someone else and Dr. Bashir is, I need a certain genetic profile to donate a pancreas sliver to this guy or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And then he goes, da-da-da, because he's genetically engineered. He can even be like, hey, look, let me do it. I'm genetically engineered. Spock's overhauling the computer. It's red tagged out, so we got to do it by hand. And so he's like, hey, wait a second. That's not right. So he's looking at someone's DNA, and he tells just by looking that the record's fake.
Yes.
And then he's like, yeah, wait a second. Like, hey, I got a routine scan for you. Maybe some questionable ethics, maybe not, in terms of how he gets an actual DNA scan of Paris. And...
Sorry. Well, Paris is just around sick bay anyway. So
yeah, no, I'm sorry. I was just thinking of some subtle way to get Tom Paris's DNA, and all I can imagine is Julian Bashir externalizing this problem, and the next thing just cuts to the holodeck, and he's like, boop, boop. All right, and then he walks out with the no words. And then he's explaining to whatever sounding board is. He's like, so I analyzed Tom Paris's DNA.
How'd you get it?
Right.
How else?
No, they don't even ask. Like, you're just like, we get one scene that demonstrates it is great. Probably taking this a little too lightly for our darker, meaner Bashir.
I guess maybe the question right now is who then is having the accident that kicks us all off? Maybe Chekhov?
Why Chekhov?
Because we haven't really used him much for anything.
Okay, all right. That would be my main criteria. There's so many characters we haven't used for anything.
Alternatively, Sulu for the same reason.
Yeah, he's a human we haven't used a lot yet. So either one of those guys, whatever that injury is probably going to be like related to our. I mean, the genetic engineering is our space plot. Mm-hmm. We may wish to bolt another plot on top of that to keep it running because of the human drama of a medical scan and some hard questions about ethics and stuff. I don't know if that happens in a vacuum.
Well, we could, if there's a Planet of the Week, that's sort of our B plot, that there's some sort of conflict going on there, and there was supposed to be a peace conference, but someone tried to pull guns as usual, and suddenly things got crazy, and whoever got hurt jumped in front of the beam and just barely survived, sort of thing. And
well, what I've done is I have actually created a list of very broad Star Trek episode types. And we've already done a Planet of the Week. In our Nog episode. We've done an ancient alien artifact in our first episode. So, what I think this episode would call for in terms of list would probably be what I call a space pothole.
Space pothole. So there's a weird thing out there, and where suddenly the ship's got shaked.
Yeah. So we hit it, it goes bump, and either the entire ship's screwed up, or we're trapped in a stream of little people, or we are little people now, or whatever. And the answer for that might be Tom Paris doing whatever his genetic thing is. And by the way, I hate the idea of making someone else genetically engineered. Like, part of Voyager's whole thing is that they looked at the humans and went, in favor of the Doctor and Seven of Nine, who are special.
Yes.
But so I kind of hate that characters need to be like some kind of sci-fi thing to be interesting. But I think the dramatic concepts there are interesting enough. So I would say we've hit a space pothole, and we would like to answer that problem. But also, we need a sounding board for Julian Bashir. As he's going through this journey, he needs someone to talk to.
Yes. So he is on Epsilon shift. So for staying with there, we got some interesting characters there. Though we've also touched on several of them already.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, alternatively, he could talk to one of the other medical division folks.
Jesus, he has done most of them. We could call this Enterprise Epsilon shift at this point. Yeah.
I guess, having some more, exposure for Chapel might be a great idea. Sort of, they start working together, and it's like, I need some advice here. This is between doctors. We need to keep this confidential. Are you cool with that? It's like, yeah, I'm Senior Chief Chapel. You know me.
Yeah.
And they have a long discussion there or something like that, or trade after Cass.
Yeah. Yeah. Someone who's maybe a little older, maybe a little more willing to break the rules in terms of keeping something confidential. I feel like this would be... All right. What are fun combinations with Julian Bashir? Let's just throw some spaghetti at the wall right quick.
No, he
is...
EMH. Like, I might be not
I'm sorry
anymore, but...
I put that shovel down, and I found nothing, because that well's already dug pretty deep. But, okay. Lieutenant Junior Grade Rand, she's kind of young. Odo. Weird. Okay.
We could have one of the Daxes show up.
You could do one of the Daxes. He does have a history with that. I was looking for someone outside of DS9, so that we could be like, what about Wesley?
Kind of a funky option, but potentially workable.
Well, I mean, the premise of the series is, let's give us some funky options. They're both young officers. I guess Bashir might be a little older than Wesley.
And, Wesley is kind of, also a different kind of Wonderkin sort of thing going on as well. But it's, it's like, okay, so, why aren't you mad at me sort of thing could be his sort of comeback here. I was not genetically enhanced. I just kind of got the roll of the dice and got lucky. So, and so we can kind of go back and forth about, if the outcome is the same for these two people, one was augmented, one was not, then why should this matter at all, perhaps?
Yeah, and Wesley can easily say, it's not so much worse for you. Sorry, brain bad. So Wesley Crusher can say, you had to go through a process to get what you got, and I got it naturally. Like, is that fair to you? And Wesley can be like, hey, look, I'm naturally talented. No matter how egalitarian the society is, that's valuable. And this society sees me as having a certain kind of worth that you all don't. And even though Star Trek, Starfleet is pretty good about saying, well, it's not just raw intelligence that gets you in. It's humanity and maturity and things like that. Wesley would be in a great spot to say, hey, look, the kind of reliance on the natural course of human evolution that TNG and DS9 purport, put into the Federation yields results. Like, we don't all need to be eugenics based and genetically engineered, all that kind of stuff. Like, greatness will still come out, and then greatness will still have problems, and regular people will still have a place. Instead of getting into a Red Queen hypothesis with gene tweaking. I think it's a really good, that's a good pairing. I'm trying to think of someone else. I think it's Chapel or Crusher, because Chapel is like a senior person who's maybe wise enough to figure these things out.
Either one of them could, potentially also kind of discover that Bashir's found something, and it's kind of like, do you want to tell me what this is first, or do I need to actually go through this analysis myself?
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that Senior Chief Chapel has like a duty to report to some extent. And she can choose not to, because Star Trek characters can break the rules, especially if they know like their subordinate, which Senior Chief Chapel is technically, subordinate to Dr. Bashir, but as a senior enlisted, she's, a
bit more.
She's not. The reality is,
ignore you sometimes.
Is that a junior officer who doesn't listen to a senior enlisted is fucking up. Yeah. So that would be interesting, and it's within the remit of senior enlisted to mentor younger officers, which Bashir's a little, older than young, but whatever. God, it's a pretty dude heavy plot. I think Wesley has a lot of good input here, but I think Chapel could do it too.
Yeah, I think both of them kind of being the sounding boards here would probably be overall.
Shit. Great, you can put 4 people in the story. A story can hold 4 whole people. Yeah.
Well, we also have our injured person, but that's sort of B plot at this point.
Right, and that's just like what gets us in here, and it gives us a little bit of history for that character. So the deal is, someone's injured. Dr. Bashir needs to check on genetic specifications to help them. He finds a candidate, but he also notices an inconsistency with Tom Paris. So he helps out whoever it is. He finds a member of the crew that applies to it. Boom, ropes them in. Bam, genes. Bam, person fixed.
Well, our space pothole can also help, motivate all this. You mentioned Spock's having turned off the computer, or whatever. Our space pothole has done effectively that same thing. So everyone has to be sort of, retested because our memory banks have been made inaccessible or whatever.
Well, it makes sense to have a computer go through all the DNA profiles. But if you do it manually, that's how Dr. Bashir finds the thing. So whatever it is, it's shut off the main computer. Yeah. So, and it has also injured someone. So we are working without our computer. And meanwhile, it's not super urgent. It's kind of urgent. It's urgent enough that Dr. Bashir has some time to talk to people and think about things and have a little, have some drama. So then at the end, Paris has to solve whatever the problem is, right? With his non-genetically engineered stuff and his desire to do things that are not walking the narrow path of gaining conventional power and public esteem, right?
It's like, I just kind of want to be my own person here. And, it doesn't necessarily mean I have to be on top of everything. Just kind of being chill with who I am and what I'm about.
Sorry, and that's something he's had to work for. Whatever it is, he's had to work for. He has to study 20th century whatever, or holodeck programming. Doesn't Tom Paris program a lot of holodecks?
Yeah. I believe he put together the Chaotica storylines himself. Right. So
maybe holodeck programming is something he's just not good with. And then I'm just going to shove a Barkley cameo right off screen there. And so that's the thing. So then can we tie it back around to the holodeck and have a holodeck used as a tool to solve a space problem?
That would be great, actually. So it's like, okay, we got our big augmentation question here, but you're here and you've kind of gotten yourself pretty good at this sort of thing. So let's try to make good use of that and help everyone out and see what we can do.
So we need a space problem that can break the computer, harm probably a science officer, and that can be solved with the holodeck.
All right, so
that is super pressing.
Good science officer candidates who are not Wesley Crusher, it would probably be not a Vulcan then. Or would that be preferable? It's like we're looking for something really weird that other Vulcans rarely have themselves, but maybe somebody else has it.
I chose science officer because we were putting out Chekhov there as our hurt person.
So, all right, so let's go with Chekhov then. Yes.
Space things, computers bad. Computers think about stuff. Computers see things. If you put a life form in the computer, I feel like we've done that a couple times in Star Trek. I don't feel super compelled by that.
Oh, maybe the problem with computer is reflected in what's going on in the local space. Like everything's just jumbled up, and you're not entirely sure which way is up, sort of things. And so you very much, a holodeck simulation of this space would be great in order to try to navigate your way through. So someone who's both a pilot and good at the holodeck would be able to sort of trace their way to get the ship out of this sort of maze that's in like 7 dimensions.
Yeah, but I feel like they would just feed the navigation. For standard navigational data would put it into a specific reference frame. But what it is it could be like a subjective reference frame. Mm-hmm. That's leaning pretty hard on our world, but yeah, a subjective reference frame that the computer can't parse.
And so the computer, maybe again, the computer tried to parse it, and that's why it's broken.
That makes sense. It's
like, this doesn't make any sense. I'm gonna put errors forever. So
there's a TOS episode with the Medusans where a guy goes insane, and therefore he's very good at making the engines go.
Yes.
But what if there is like a literal insane part of space that is just like, oh, that's where he drove us into that one time, and it's just wacky loopy land, and we're trying to chart it, but it's not working. So like we're kind of stuck inside of it, and we just need to find a way out, and that's not great. And our computer broke because of the navigational thing. But eventually, Tom Paris is like, "Hey, look, I can visualize this. I just need to visualize this in the holodeck, the thing that I use for fun all the time, and that'll get us out of this."
Yeah, because this is a higher dimensional problem than I'm used to working with. So I need basically a scratch pad in order to make this all come together here.
Yeah, and so a computer explodes or whatever. Chekhov is doing some navigational data entry or something.
Yes.
And
possibly recovering from his surgery or whatever.
So I mean, it explodes or whatever, and so he needs a something transplant with a similar DNA. Mm-hmm. Or maybe he's like in a pilot shuttle.
Oh yeah.
Right, which they do a lot, which is a pretty cool idea. I love it. I love the pilot shuttle. So like he's in like wacky space, and so I don't know, his femur's vanished or something. So they need new bone marrow from someone with like the right kind of DNA. And so Julian Bashir has to build new bone marrow from Sulu or something. And because he's got compatible DNA or whatever, Jordy, I don't know. So, but in the process of finding that's when he stumbles across the Tom Paris thing.
So, Chekhov, is out there trying to pilot the ship out at the start of the episode. And, it's like, we're having this trouble here. Things are going crazy. Then, it's like, okay, oh no, the shuttle's going to explode. You've got to beam him out of there, pronto. And they beam him out, and some of his bones are missing. And so, yeah, he very much needs a bone marrow transplant.
or DNA damage or something. So, yeah, we can...
So it is more hilarious if it is literally, his femur's missing. We're not sure why.
Yeah. Navigation Engineering Division. We made that separate from just the regular operations division that makes the ship work on a day-to-day basis. Well, you put Sulu in there. Sulu in there in navigation engineering. He's a pilot. He's a navigator. He and Sulu are on the same ship. We could put them on a shuttle together and have them have a little moment, which they never had in the original series, but still somehow people group them together as friends or something.
Yeah, well, they sit next to each other, so that's good enough, right?
No, I think they did chat a little bit. Chekhov was complaining about having his blood taken in the episode where everybody got old, and Sulu snarks at him or something. That's the episode where the people get the picture of Sulu texting from. It's great. So we can put them in a shuttle together, just doing like some day in the life stuff of Starfleet. Dangerous
thing. Out this thing, and suddenly, oh no, we got to beam out. Got D&D damage. We need to do this thing. Also, Paris is working on this other problem, and he's being real, just sort of his normal kind of layabout self. And because he's been, it's like we need some way to sort of try to untangle this weird space here, and he has this idea, and then Bashir, goes about because the computer's also borked, scans everybody's DNA to look for a compatible donor for Chekhov and or Sulu. Or maybe both of them, for all we know, could have similar damage. Then Bashir's just kind of checking over the things, spots the thing with Paris, and then while Paris is distracted by the other plot stuff, Bashir kind of comes to him and is like, "Hey, so we need to talk." And then and Paris is like, "This doesn't make any sense. I should know, right?" And then Bashir's like, "Well, I need to verify, and I can't do that until the computer's back up, but this might be a thing." And then, they sort of have a thing, and Bashir's like, "I am obligated to report it, but give me a few hours to think about this." And then he goes and has his exchange with Chapel and Wesley, and what does he finally decide in the end?
Well, I mean, it's Star Trek. He does the right thing. So I would say that I would subtract Paris from. I wouldn't set up the fact that he's working on a solution. I would say, hey, look, here's our very important mission, and then maybe cut to maybe Tom Paris messing around, right? Who's this Tom Paris guy? And then we're like, oh, we don't think a lot of him. He's just like some nerd who seems like he's from the 20th or 21st century. And then we do check.
Then we do out in his quarters, and he has a TV set up there. So
that or tweaking a holodeck program, right? and pulling in maybe Dr. McCoy or Kess or someone who's like Odo. Getting Odo into holodeck things is fun. And then we do like the Sulu. Oh, like there's a medical emergency maybe with Sulu and Chekhov, or we start with Sulu and Chekhov and then we go into the medical emergency, and that's where Paris comes in.
Well, I think having Sulu and Chekhov as our cold open there, trying to do this, very immediate res might be more interesting way to
dramatic.
sort of kick off the episode there, and then have the medical consequences of that sort of start playing out as other stuff is going on.
There's this real cool thing that DS9 does in early seasons, and I've only noticed it on a rewatch, so I don't know if they do it in later seasons, where they track the camera around the promenade from story to story, because all of these people live in the same space. And it's a really nice, subtle camera bit. So, I mean, you could go from Sulu and Chekhov, and then you could swing that camera onto Bashir while Bashir's going through these medical records. And maybe he talks with Crusher about what the real deal is, and he talks to Chap a little bit, a little obtusely. And in the meantime, we see other little stories of the crew, of like, who could it be? Could it be Chekhov? Could it be Sulu? Could it be Tom Paris? Could it be Geordie LaForge, who had to give like the DNA to Chekhov? Or
so basically we're keeping it a mystery for the time being as we sort of like show you like, is it this person? This person?
Yeah. We're basically playing a reverse Let's Who for Star Trek. Meanwhile, we're kind of stuck in this, we're stuck in the weird space, the mad space. And I guess using madness as a description for mental illness, is that, like, I know it's not, we're talking about literally illogical from the ground up. So I don't know if madness is fair for that.
Yeah, I don't think it quite parses correctly. Maybe he's, and chaotic also has its own sort of thing. There's also chaotic space, I think, shows at some point in Voyager. It'd be something.
Oh,
we could always
what if it is?
Could always be a Vulcan word for like anti-logic.
Damn, I was literally going there. Because it's illogical space. It's like, well, if you're going to go logic, you go Vulcan. That's just the rule.
Exactly.
So, I'm sure in the great vast Star Trek beta canon, there must be a Star Trek a Vulcan word for illogical. There might be several. So it would be whatever that space is. The only Vulcan word I know is Akweth. Oh, and Thyla. But anyway,
what about the Ketishar or whatever it was?
I don't know what that is.
Never mind.
The Kolinar? No. Anyway, so we kind of get little vignettes of our Guess Who of people. It's going to be a he, so we're going to eliminate any women randomly. So maybe we can put Chapel or Kess up there. And we'd be like, maybe it's them. Maybe they're genetically modified. Although Kess wouldn't be from a Starfleet world, so it wouldn't matter so much.
Kess has all sorts of weird other things going on too. So.
Yeah, but in terms of suspicion, and then like we lens over their little interaction, like what's this character's deal? What if what they're doing is only because they're genetically engineered? And then, Bashir's like, oh, but he hasn't done this in his whole career. And you're like, oh, okay, all right, well, it's not her then. And she'd be one of the first ones because of pronoun use eliminated. So, yeah, okay. So, but we have our bridge out, and I think we have our main conflict out, right?
Yeah, we have our main conflict. Is there going to be any extra side plots?
I think if we're going to have like a bunch of little vignettes of people's lives, then we can maybe have something kind of float between them, like the evil orb from Heavy Metal, or like that little that wrapping paper from that one episode of the Animaniacs that makes you cry, like whatever.
The Locknar.
Just some mundane element that travels through it. It travels from,
Well, yeah, we kind of got some things here about, something that is given to you versus something that just sort of happens. Is there anyone that with a situation that can kind of parallel that, but from a different sort of dynamic? Some other sort of situation. Is there a couple people that are very similar, but with very different ways about how they got there.
We are not doing Dax and Dax at this junction. We are not doing it.
That's for later.
It would be amazing if there's a security division party. All I can imagine is the big banner from that one episode of The Office. Happy birthday, today's your date of birth, with silver balloons. I'm trying to imagine those guys throwing a party, and it is amazing. But like there could be a cultural tradition. I would love to see Scotty host the Highland Games in the Enterprise.
That'd be great. Time to toss the caber.
I'm looking at all of our guys, see what kind of cultural things we have from them. Dr. McCoy could host a tailgater. That would be incredible. This is the historic gathering of the southern people of the North American continent.
Data has a poetry reading. No one goes.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to think of all the cultural stuff we could pull from these characters, but all I have are stuff that's been done by Star Trek and basically half-informed, culturally ignorant stereotypes.
Kind of, yeah.
Unless Catherine Pulaski's going to have a Liberation from Russians Day, I just don't see anything that's going to stand out for us. There could be a Bajoran festival. I feel like Bajorans have more dances than Greendale College, but I feel like there could be a Bajoran, maybe the Bajoran Gratitude Festival. It's always a pretty cool time. Yeah. I think they did that twice on DS9.
One of those was the Loxana Troy episode, wasn't it?
I believe so. One of the two. And again, they were both Crackerjack episodes. Well, Loxana Troy episodes are good episodes. Fight me, nerds. So everybody wants to get ready for the Bajoran Gratitude Festival. And they make little scrolls, don't they? And they throw them into a fire?
Yes. And was it regrets or promises? I forget which one.
I assumed it was gratitude. Things they were grateful for.
Oh,
like Thanksgiving, but with fewer turkeys. Oh my God, what if it was a composite celebration? Where it's like American Thanksgiving and the Bajoran Gratitude Festival land on the same week.
So Janeway and Kirk for the Thanksgiving, and Kira and Ro for the Bajorans. The Gratitude Festival.
I'm now realizing there was a reason that Voyager never celebrated Thanksgiving. So maybe just the Bajoran Gratitude Festival.
Yeah, let's avoid Columbus Day, shall we?
Yeah. It's maybe not for the best. So it's a great idea in theory. Maybe the specific implementation of it is not great. Bajoran Gratitude Festival. People are going to go. Sulu and Chekhov are yakking about it on the shuttle. Julian Bashir, he takes a wounded crew member in. Tom Paris, Chief Chapel, Ensign Crusher. Mm-hmm. They all have other lines that they're doing with other people to get ready for the festival, or things like, what am I grateful for? One thing that Wesley's grateful for are that he has these natural gifts. Julian Bashir is obviously grateful he's still in Starfleet, but also for the genetic stuff.
What is Chapel grateful for?
Some chief stuff, whatever her hobby is. I don't know what.
Spock?
I don't think Nurse Chapel had a hobby. In the Everyone's Alive and on the Enterprise kind of premise, she has a fiance, Roger Corby.
Oh yeah.
I mean, she hadn't talked to him in like a year, but I assume that relationship is otherwise healthy, notwithstanding his being kind of a lunatic. It'd be a great episode for her to break up with him, to be like, Roger Corby, what the fuck? It's been a month. You have a subspace communications around that planet. Give me a freaking email.
Yeah, just anything, please.
That would be interesting if... I'm trying to picture like this collegial Nurse Chapel Spock relationship. That doesn't have like the sexual tension or romantic underpinnings. Just two people who get along really differently. Like there's this great DS9 episode where O'Brien and Kira realize that they're kind of compatible romantically.
Yes.
And so they're just like, no, we can't do this. But other than that, they get along just fine. They have interesting moments together throughout Deep Space Nine. They're not like pals. They don't have a thing, but they get along. Like they generally have a certain level of chemistry. And that would be great for Chapel and Spock.
Yeah, it's like, we got our own things going on right now, but, it's there. There's a friendship,
Oh, my God. Okay, so Chapel shares a berthing with Chief O'Brien and Leonard McCoy. I could definitely see her talking with her roommates about Roger Corby. And Miles O'Brien's like, oh, you got to dump that guy.
Seems a little, McCoy's like, I don't know. Yeah, he seems a little off myself, but if he's not completely, lost his crap yet, then, whatever. But
Miles O'Brien has a hard-battled marriage. He's been through a lot with Keiko to stay married.
Mm-hmm.
Leonard H. McCoy is... I don't know if it's canon. I don't know if he's canonically divorced.
Because at some point
In
he
the
was supposed
JJ
to have a
verse, he
daughter,
is.
but
In the animated series, he has a daughter.
okay.
Which is fair. I think technically only Yesteryear is canon from that, but I think it's fair to assume he's divorced. It'd be interesting to have the divorced guy and the married guy, super married guy, give Chapel relationship advice. Kind of like humanizing a little bit in their quarters where we talk about these guys. We're like, well, either one of these guys could be genetically engineered. We wouldn't know, really.
Because they're both pretty awesome in their own right.
Yeah, and so...
So we have this, we kind of pull out this mystery for as long as possible, with Bashir kind of trying to, pin down his ethics.
And so we can go from Dr. McCoy, who's a science officer now, to Wesley Crusher, since they work in the same division.
Yes.
And then we can have a little like, what does the science division look like? This is their wheelhouse, where, navigation, yes, but they're also trying to chart a region of space, which is insane. And they give us a little plot set up, talk about our problems. We're kind of stranded here. We can try to move this way and that, but we don't know if what happened to Chekhov could happen to any of us if we're on the ship. So what are our options? We can navigate a little bit because, we've made a little progress here, but not a lot. Should we send out another shuttle, et cetera, et cetera? And Picard's like, all right, I'll take these recommendations to the captain. He vanishes off screen, and we sit with Wesley, who gets waylaid by Bashir, and he's like, hey, let's go to the rec deck. And there, Bashir and Wesley have their slightly more frank conversation about what's happening.
Indeed.
And you're like, well, any of these people could be genetically engineered. That we just saw in the science division, da-da-da.
So we're in the recreation area here, and there's maybe a few other people just sort of around. We kind of have Wesley sort of curiously look at people as they're sort of discussing this in a sort of very abstract sort of fashion. So basically, we can just kind of toss whoever was left over at this point.
Well, people from either of their shifts, really. Geordi, Pulaski, Kira. Maybe not Kira so much, since she's not from inside the Federation. And we can skip Epsilon shift. So, and maybe Pulaski comes in and they kind of cut the conversation short. It's like, well, is that because she's a lieutenant commander? Or is that because it's a sensitive subject matter? Yeah, we probably shouldn't even be talking about not reporting it around a lieutenant commander. Yeah. So then we track back from Bashir to Medical Bay, where we get to Thomas Paris.
Yes.
And
Tom, so
boy,
how's
it's
it
a long
going?
time getting to him.
Yeah, it's like the science and navigation pilks are poking me about the weirdness of the space again, and what's up?
Checking on Chekhov's treatment, thinking about different ways, and Bashir's like probing Paris. Bashir's like, "What do you think, technician?" He's like, just keep giving him the hydrocortisone because we prescribed for everything. And and Bashir's like, but come on, you have to have some kind of a thought about it. He's pushing him to try to get
it's like,
stuff out of him.
You shouldn't have some, knowledge beyond your years that's going to come out here.
Yeah.
And, and then Paris is just like, no, I'm just a junior tech here. I don't really care.
You're special, goddammit. Act like it.
Yeah.
And maybe even Bashir crosses a line there. So where he's
this could be our revelation point where where Paris is like, what's gotten into you? Why are you so hostile here and things like that?
So we break and then we go to Tom Paris, and he's obviously planning stuff for the Bajoran Gratitude Festival. Why are he and Harry Kim not on the same shift? How'd I mess that up? Whatever.
Maybe I'm falling out.
we can go full lower decks with those guys. We have a full lower deck scene where people are talking about it, and Roland's like, the Bajoran Gratitude Festival, I hate it so much. A scroll falls out of it. She's like, this isn't mine. Then more scrolls fall out. I hate Bajoran traditions so much, you guys.
So awkward.
So we get a little bit of lower junior tech stuff, and Paris is just completely unremarkable, and he has friends, and he does holodeck stuff, and he's like, who wants to play Bride of Chaotica? And people are like, oh my god, yeah. So. Well,
the Chaotica stuff could even be an interesting twist if Harry's still random sidekick guy in that case, because it's like, I'm higher rank than you normally, but you're in charge here, right?
Yeah. And it would be good if
it's sort of implying that Paris might technically somewhere have that ambition, but he doesn't really care about it being real.
I don't know. I would absolutely love to reverse it and say, what if our POV character is happy to be the sidekick? Because one, it's always messed up whenever one of the characters, weirdly, usually a person of color, is the sidekick in a holodeck fantasy.
Sure.
Not saying many Geordie LaForges, but yeah, like, so it'd be good to reverse it. And Tom Paris like, no, I'm the sidekick in the Bride of Chaotica story, the Captain Proton story. But like, it's fun. It's fun. That's the point of it being fun. It'd be a crap holodeck program if being the sidekick sucked. And Harry Kim comes in. He just likes playing that part of the being Captain Proton. Be a good reversal.
I like that. Yeah. Yeah. So it's a a reversal there, and so they can have some their off time. And they're kind of discussing what's going on here, and Paris kind of lets on that Bashir kind of blew up at him at one point.
Yeah.
Earlier, and Kim's like, "What's going on there?" Like, I'm not sure if I should talk about it.
Yeah. And so Harry Kim gives some sage advice, which is actually evil alternate universe Harry Kim, which we've set up pretty well. And so like it's kind of, he's like, test of character. What should you do? He's like, well, you should talk with him about it. You should see what his problem is. You should stand up for yourself. You deserve that. And so Paris does it, and he goes in and he has a blow up with Bashir because Bashir doesn't want to talk about it, but then he does. And Paris is like, what are you going to do? And Bashir's like, I don't know. I haven't decided yet. Mm-hmm. And so so Paris walks out. And that's kind of like our emotional linchpin of the scene, where Bashir is more honest with himself than he thought, because Tom Paris is no dummy. He's not genetically engineered, but he's like, yeah, you're saying like this is a medical issue or this is a legal issue or some other issue. This is because you got busted for it, and because you want to be the god. You want to be Alec Baldwin in, what is that movie? I forget. Yeah, but and you're not, and I'm not like you, and I'm not like anybody made me to be. I'm Tom Paris. Screw you, I'm out.
Yeah, I'm doing my own thing. I'm being my own man.
And we do the classic, like, Bashir has just been given a lot to think about, and he sits in his chair. Shot. So
always good.
And so then I think we get one or two more scenes, and then Paris has got to be motivated and empowered to solve the holodeck problem, the crazy space problem with his holodecking. Why would he do that? Why would he suddenly go, I'm going to solve this navigation issue?
One of the things about the whole Occupants storyline and things like that in Star Trek is that they are inevitably become very selfish people. But here we have him being a very selfless person if he's, kind of pulling himself out of his sort of, I'm just kind of do my own thing sort of thing. And in order to help provide a key component of the solution to the problem. It's not, he's not doing it for his own glory, but he's doing it to save everyone.
Which any Starfleet officer would do. Mm-hmm. What if we do it this way? What if Sulu and LaForge and Torres, who we've all set up in previous scenes, and who are all in the Navigation Engineering Division, can't go to the Gratitude Festival? So he's like, hey, Blonde, I'll meet you at the Gratitude Festival. She's like, no. It's all hands on deck in engineering. We got to figure out how to get us out of this crazy space. We're not in immediate danger, but we'd like to get out sometime.
We're kind of stuck here until we figure this out.
And so Paris is like, hey, I'm not a bad pilot. Let me help.
Yeah, I'll so have a look at it. And he kind of drops in and is like, oh yeah, we should do this one thing. That'll be really easy. And they start going through it, and suddenly there's this super crazy complicated holodeck program, and everyone else is kind of like scratching their heads at it. And Paris is like, yeah, you just kind of fly through this section, then you go through that bit, and you pop up over here, and then suddenly you're done. And everyone's like, okay.
I feel like it's a bit much. In terms of like, oh, he's genetically engineered, and that's why he's winning. But it's not because he's genetically engineered. It's because he does holodeck stuff. Mm-hmm. So these guys are all like, at a work table or whatever, and they're all like blah 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 blah. And maybe we do some intercuts between everybody having fun at the party, which Tom has, people doing things that Tom said he would do at the Gratitude Festival, yes. And everybody in the engineering division with Tom Paris, like talking it over and doing the technobabble, and Geordi gets to sit down and be like, oh, that's what it looks like whenever you sit down, and this is what it feels like when you sit down and somebody else explains the technobabble to you. Mm-hmm. And they're like, it's kind of like this. And then Paris is like, no, we can visualize this with the holodeck. And it's like, it'd take a while to call up a holodeck program like that. He's like, no, I've got something similar to it whenever I did whatever.
So he already came up with the holodeck version of Portal.
It's something like that. So then he takes them to the holodeck and he does the thing. They're like, oh, we can do like this and this and this, and they all like work together. And then at the end they have it and they're like, we got it, and it's all worked out.
So coming together more like it then. Yeah, I like that one better. Yes. So it's a cooperative sort of solution. Everyone bringing their own stuff.
Yeah, and with this sort of map, we can chart the entire crazy space. So, and then we eventually get the denouement on Dr. Bashir and what he does. And I said he would do the right thing. So I guess it's just to keep it quiet. That doesn't seem like the right thing.
I guess the right thing. I guess kind of comes down to then what does Bashir specifically view that as? Is keeping it quiet, the right thing for more than just Paris or potentially everyone like him? Because there might be, many more people out there that, have been, genetically tinkered with. That if this comes out, there could be, hundreds, perhaps thousands of people out in the Federation. They're going to be screwed over because people's like, wait, we need to go and double check this because if this one guy could, get this past us, then we need to start double checking all our notes and things like that. And so there could be larger consequences if he does reveal him. And
that'd be.
And so it's like, all right, he's not like as scary as everyone, talked about. But then, I guess the counter argument is that, Bashir could use Paris as an example of like, this whole genetic engineering thing ain't so bad. So maybe we could all be sort of brought out in the open and, be able to do, use the stuff responsibly because apparently we are already doing it. It's just sort of, undercover right now.
Not a big fan of that. I did remark we are over time, but I did remark that I did want a character to become involved in politics over the course of the series. And I would not have thought it would be Bashir because he's genetically engineered and playing to type. But that's an interesting thought. My thought for the final scene would be this. It's Bashir talking directly to Kirk. And he says, Mr. Paris has never used his gifts for his personal advancement or his personal gain. He is passionate about causes he believes in, and he's a hard worker. However, whenever I was revealed as being genetically engineered, it brought down a network of thousands of individuals who had subjected their own children to unthinkable experiments and unacceptable risks simply from their own egos. And it is imperative that, obviously, Mr. Paris was from a different group doing that, but the same principles still apply. However, given that his dad's an admiral, this might be sensitive, so I thought it best to come to you. And Kirk says, okay, I get that. And he says some Kirk things. And that's just left as a dangling plot thread.
Yeah.
Where the hammer doesn't come down on Paris because we understand Paris is good. And I hate doing that. I hate making our main characters exceptional. But we understand that there's a larger principle at play in terms of what people do and the risk they expose their children to.
Indeed.
And we can't act on it now. Because of it makes Paris's dad a bad admiral, but whatever. What are you going to do?
Well, it would also explain it's like how Paris got through and wasn't noticed until this point.
Yeah.
It's like because maybe there is a larger movement out there that is okay with this and for using it responsibly, but they are also bad elements. They're trying but because it's all having to be sort of done cloak and dagger like. There's some back and forth here, and it's not entirely sure if this, who can be trusted as far as this sort of stuff goes. So, you could have, the admiral in a very sort of ambiguous place there where he's had to work with, people from both ends of that sort of spectrum. The folks that are, totally okay with just sort of doing it, whatever. And then the folks that are like, no, we got to be actually responsible about this so that maybe someday we can make this legal finally and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. And that's a good inroad for future our characters do not exist in a politically agnostic bubble episodes. So that's good.
So this is something that could very, very easily sort of, expand into much more, complicated things outside the ship later. Yes. So
title?
Title.
Good for a title.
Well, I did like my inferior ambition sort of thing, but something a little bit more.
Yeah, it's a pretty good one.
Yeah, but if we could come up with something a little bit more on the nose, it would be even better.
Yet inferior sounds insulting whenever it's not. I don't say humble ambition because it's an oxymoron, but And it's an intriguing oxymoron. Higher ambition, where like in their scuff up between Paris and Bashir, Bashir's like, look, you think the highest thing that you can possibly achieve is getting 4 pips on your collar and people giving you a pat on the back and awards. Mm-hmm. My ambitions are slightly higher. I plan to enjoy my life to the fullest and improve the lives of the people around me.
Yeah. Which is very, very Star Trek.
Yes. Right. And it speaks to the humbleness that, you know, people in the Federation should have, and to a higher ambition than just, you know, the conventional path.
Yeah, it's not all about career success. It's about being the best you possible and having a good time doing it.
Yeah.
Which is very Paris' sort of thing.
Yeah, it kind of is his character.
Well, so. In that case, we could have this, like a like pure ambition, but it's not pure as in this is a very intense ambition, but ambition that is more ethically pure.
Yeah, I like that. So
sort of it's sort of a fake out to a certain extent there.
Yeah, I get it.
Double entendres, huh?
Yeah, no, it sounds good. I'm going to call it an episode.
All right, so pure ambition.
Yep.
Cool.
All right, another one in the can. I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yes. And keep rocking.